So, we're going through a typical Alpha session. We've done prayer, we've done welcome, we've done worship, we've done food, we've done talks. We've looked at where we can get the talks from our digital resources. Now we're on to small groups. Yeah. Is that right?
That is right.
Yes! Sorry.
And so we're going to spend a bit of time on this one because actually, I think it's the most important. So,
yeah. The heart of Alpha is a small group. And whether you're doing a big alpha or a small alpha, it's really important that you enable people to explore through the small groups. And we know that you know most of this, but we've got just a few top tips of what we've learned, I guess, over the years. And this is where people get to experience love in the group. They get to explore together. No question is too stupid. No question is too far-fetched. Patrick Lencioni says this about small groups. It's as simple as this. When people don't unload their opinions and feel like they've been listened to, they won't really get on board. And that's the whole point of the Alpha Small Group. It's getting a group together where they feel respected, heard, and listened to. And it's a safe place to start to explore the big questions of life and encounter Jesus.
Now, there's a few really practical things to remember that can make all the difference between an awkward conversation and something that feels a little bit more real and where you can build friendships and have a sense of family. Biggest thing is Alpha's small groups are not like any other small groups that you've ever been. I mean, some of you might be a leader of a connect group, a pastor, a Bible study, whatever they're called these days. I can never keep up. In that, the biggest difference, the group leader of an Alpha small group is not really a leader. I would best describe it as a host. So think about if you were having a dinner party or a lunch and you were hosting it, you're not leading it and you wouldn't lead the conversation. So I wouldn't say to Tom Clark, Tom, could you lead everyone in a discussion about their plans for the weekend and their opinion on the rugby? It would be weird, awkward. Tom would feel awkward. The guests would suddenly think, I can't speak until Tom speaks to me. So that's not what we want to do in the Alpha small group. We want to create something that's real and authentic. And actually, the host is there just to keep the conversation flowing. So it might be, oh, Tom, have you met with so-and-so? Well, that's interesting. Let's start that conversation over there. But you're not leading it.
So the hosts are there to host and facilitate conversation and make sure everyone's heard. What about helpers? How do they get involved?
Helpers, again, key part of a small group. One of the things that helpers do is help. They help. And this might be when people are arriving, when your guests are arriving, they're the ones that are spotting them and bringing them into the small group. So that would be a key part. Also, after the talk, they're there helping with getting coffee, perhaps some cakes, biscuits, whatever it is you're doing. And again, just helping the host, kind of doing the background stuff a lot. And for the first few weeks, the helper might not speak in the group as well. Again, quite a big difference from any other small group. The helper would be quite silent. And that allows any of your guests who are perhaps a bit shy, who haven't spoken, to not feel like the only person in the group who isn't speaking. And it's for this reason that it's quite important that your hosts and helpers are trained really, really well.
Yeah, and obviously this is not the extensive training of how to do small groups. You can find more training online, alpha.org. All the stuff you need is there, and it will be on the new app when that comes out. I guess one of the funnest ways you can do training is to gather a load of churches together in your area who are running Alpha together. It means you get to find out who else is doing Alpha in your area. You get to pray together. There's a sense of doing it together and collaboration. And you can learn from one another and pray.
In Thessalonians 2, verse 8, Paul says, "Because we loved you so much, we were delighted to share with you not only the gospel of God, but our lives as well." And in Alpha Small Group, we as hosts, helpers, as the leader, Alpha leader, we get to share some of our lives with others. And actually that can have a huge impact on the lives of your guests.
Yeah, some of the best groups I've hosted have been the ones where you open a conversation and then you look back at the clock and the time's all up and you've barely said a word, but everyone has been chatting together and got really involved. It's really cool.
Yeah, I totally agree. My best small groups are always the ones when the conversation hasn't felt forced. So I haven't forced anything or tried to correct a point of theology. That's quite important there. Because small groups shouldn't feel like teacher-pupil. Everyone's voice needs to be heard. And it's a time for listening and creating relationship where it's safe for people to explore.
Absolutely. And one of the best phrases that I've ever used to help me with this is this. That's so interesting. What does everybody else think? Oh, it's on the screen.
Oh,
that's
great.
Cool. So let's give it a go. After 3, 1, 2, 3.
That's so interesting.
What does everyone else think? And if you use it over and over again, actually the first time you use it, it feels a little bit awkward. It feels quite weird because you know you've been programmed to say it. But when you say it, it will be really liberating and the conversation does open up and it really frees you. The awkward moment is when you say it so much at Alpha and you go home and you start saying it to your wife or your husband or whoever you're living with at the time, if you're like students.
I use it in real life. It's terrible. But it is a great line. It keeps conversation flowing.
Works.
Right. So what we are going to do now is do a demonstration of what a typical small group could look like and the way we want it to look like and the way it wouldn't look like. So we're going to play a bit of a game as well. Can we get everyone on your feet?
Everyone stand up.
Stretch.
We're going to do.
People over there who are falling asleep.
If you watch this demonstration, you could then take it back and show everyone this demo. So it's kind of the perfect way to do a small group. We'll look at how not to do it, and then we'll work out how to do it. So we need some people up here. So could you stay standing if you are between the ages of 20 to 30? Stay on your feet if you're aged 20 to 30. Good.
Ageist.
Okay. How about age 20 to 26? 20 to 26. A few more sit down. Okay. 22 to 26. 22, 26. Oh. Okay. So if you're between the ages of 23 and 25. So I think 23, 24, 25-year-olds stay standing. There's still so many people. It's amazing. Okay. Stay standing if you are age 24.
Do we have?
I think we've probably got a few. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and say, could you two join us, please? And then maybe you, sir, would you mind? And one of you two, fight over it, but you could come up.
Great, guys, can I get you on stage?
So as Nikki said yesterday, we saw that graph. If you're here, 24 is the average age of someone here on HCB Alpha, and is the age that we're going for, 24. So, great, everyone sat down.
Okay, so Tom, you just want to sat here, yeah?
So if you guys sit down, this is to model a small group. So this is half the small group. I need one more person. Yeah, go for it. Thank you very much. Thanks, Alex. So this is an average small group. It's half the group, chopped in half so you can see it. I'm the host, and the ball represents the conversation. So wherever the ball goes, the conversation goes. Makes sense so far? Great. Okay, where do I stand? Here. All right. This could be fun. Okay, so let's imagine this is a conversation. This is how not to do an alpha small group. So the conversation just goes between me and Amy. We're having a great chat, but everyone else is really bored. Look bored, please. Oh, that was a mistake, but never mind. Look bored, please. Please look very bored and tired. So everyone else is really bored, but me and Amy are having a great chat. That is not the way to do an alpha small group. Okay, here's another way of how not to do an alpha small group. So the ball goes around, conversation, please catch it. That's amazing. Sorry, I didn't say that. The conversation goes around the group, but it's still focused on me. I'm still involved a lot, and it's always coming back to the host. So that's another way of how not to do a small group. But this is the perfect small group that we're going to demonstrate now. I'm going to pass the ball to you. And if you wouldn't mind just distributing the ball amongst yourselves by throwing and catching, and try not to include me too much. Does that make sense? Excellent. Great. Thanks. This is exactly how to do a small group. I could do that again so we can cut it. There's no laughter. Don't laugh. This is This is exactly how to do an alpha small group. So the ball flows freely around the small group, and the conversation is open and honest, and everyone's being heard. And every so often it can come back to me so I can say something, and then it goes back again. Isn't that great? That is exactly how to do an alpha small group. Please thank our volunteers. Have a seat. The final thing to remember about alpha small groups, or alpha in general, is that we say it's no pressure, no follow-up, no charge. And it's really simple in terms of letting people feel like they can come on alpha whenever they want. And they shouldn't feel like they're pressured to come back. One of the best ways to enable this is to not kind of message them on Facebook when they don't show up for a couple of weeks. And then you say, hey, where have you been? Are you backsliding into sin again? I've not seen you on alpha for a couple of weeks. Don't follow them or on Twitter and all that stuff. Just don't pressure them into coming back. It should be free to them, and they should feel open to come back whenever they wish. A lot of people who come on alpha actually say they've been before and tried it once, and they come back a bit, maybe a year later, a couple of years later. And I think we need to leave it up to their time, God's timing, for when they come back to alpha.
So, just to recap on small groups are the heart of alpha. Alpha is essentially a small group, whether there's one small group or 20. Training helpers and hosts is essential. No question is too stupid or far-fetched. It's not a teacher-pupil. It's not the time to give your theological opinion. It's a time to create space for the guests to explore life freely. And it's a space for them to make friends and to have fun.